The cargo ship Ascending Grace drifted slowly through the darkness of space. Its engines made terrible sounds. Smoke filled the lower decks. Warning lights flashed red across every screen on the bridge. Ambassador Krelveth stood in the center of the chaos and tried to remain calm. His gray skin had turned pale with worry. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he watched his crew run from station to station, trying to fix problems that seemed to multiply with each passing moment. "Report," he demanded, though he already knew the answer would be bad. Chief Engineer Yoleth climbed up from the engine room. Her uniform was covered in black oil. Her hands were shaking. "The main drive is destroyed, Ambassador. The backup systems are failing. We have maybe 6 hours of life support remaining." Krelveth closed all 4 of his eyes and took a deep breath. The Ascending Grace was a trade vessel belonging to the Silurian Trade Federation. It carried 47 crew members and a cargo hold full of rare minerals worth millions of credits. They had been traveling through a quiet corner of the galaxy when something went wrong with the engines. Something very, very wrong. "Where are we?" Krelveth asked. The navigation officer checked her screens. "We are in the Sol system, Ambassador. Near the 3rd planet. Earth," Krelveth said quietly. He knew about Earth. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Earth, though most species did not think much of it. The humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel about 40 years ago. They were newcomers to the galactic community. They were curious and friendly, but they were not considered important. They had no great fleets. They had no vast empire. They were just a small blue planet with strange creatures who smiled too much and asked too many questions. "We could send a distress signal," the navigation officer suggested. "Earth might be able to help." Krelveth hesitated. Asking humans for help felt strange. The Silurian Trade Federation was one of the oldest organizations in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Asking a species that had barely left their own planet for assistance seemed almost embarrassing. But then another explosion rocked the ship. More warning lights turned red. A crew member screamed somewhere in the lower decks. "Send the signal," Krelveth ordered. Pride would not keep his crew alive. The distress signal went out into the void. Krelveth expected to wait for hours. That was normal. Galactic response times were slow. Ships had to be organized. Paperwork had to be filed. Committees had to approve rescue missions. The response came in 4 minutes. "Ascending Grace. This is Houston Orbital Shipyard. We received your distress signal. Are you okay? Is anyone hurt? We are sending a repair team right now. Please tell us if anyone has food allergies or special dietary needs." Krelveth stared at the communication screen. He did not understand. Food allergies? They were about to die in the cold darkness of space. And the humans wanted to know about food allergies? "This is Ambassador Krelveth of the Silurian Trade Federation," he responded carefully. "We have suffered critical engine failure. We require immediate assistance." "Copy that, Ambassador. My name is Amy Torres. I will be your repair coordinator today. A shuttle is already on its way. ETA is about 2 hours. Hang tight. We have got you covered." The cheerfulness in the human woman's voice was almost disturbing. Krelveth had dealt with many species in his long career. He had never encountered one that sounded so genuinely happy to help. The crew of the Ascending Grace waited nervously. Some of them had never seen a human before. They had heard stories, of course. Humans were soft creatures with only 2 eyes and strange, flat faces. They came in different colors and sizes. They were not particularly strong or fast or smart compared to other species. But they were known for being friendly, perhaps too friendly. The human shuttle arrived exactly on time. It was a small vessel, painted white and blue with the words Houston Orbital written on the side. It docked smoothly with the Ascending Grace, and the airlock opened with a soft hiss. 12 humans walked onto the ship. Their leader was a tall man with brown skin and a wide smile. He wore a simple gray uniform covered in pockets full of tools. His name tag said, Daniel Cruz, Chief Repair Specialist. Ambassador Krelveth? Daniel walked forward with his hand extended. Great to meet you. Sorry about your engine trouble. We are going to get you fixed up in no time. Krelveth stared at the extended hand. He had read about this human custom. It was called a handshake. Slowly, he reached out with one of his own hands and allowed Daniel to grab it and move it up and down. Thank you for coming, Krelveth said. We were not sure anyone would respond so quickly. Daniel laughed. It was a warm sound. Are you kidding? We love helping out. Besides, we do not get many visitors out here. It is exciting. Behind Daniel, the other humans spread out across the ship. They carried boxes of equipment and tools that Krelveth did not recognize. They moved with purpose and energy, talking and joking with each other as they worked. One human caught Krelveth's attention. She was a small woman with red hair and freckles on her face. She carried several large containers that seemed to be keeping something warm. Her name tag said, Kate Simmons. I brought coffee, Kate announced to no one in particular. And sandwiches. Nobody works well on an empty stomach. Krelveth watched as Kate set up a small table near the bridge and began pouring dark liquid into cups. The smell was strange but not unpleasant. It was rich and bitter and somehow inviting. What is coffee? Yoleth asked, approaching the table with suspicion. Kate smiled brightly. Only the greatest invention in human history. Trust me. You are going to love it. Meanwhile, Daniel had already disappeared into the engine room with half his team. Krelveth could hear them talking down there, using words he did not understand. Words like, yeah, we can definitely fix this. And, oh man, this is ancient tech. And someone hand me the wrench. The ambassador stood in the middle of his damaged ship, surrounded by helpful humans who seemed genuinely happy to be there. He did not understand these creatures. They had dropped everything to help strangers. They had brought food and strange drinks. They were laughing and smiling while his ship fell apart around them. Krelveth had traveled the galaxy for many years. He had met hundreds of different species, but he had never met anyone quite like humans. He was beginning to think that the galaxy had underestimated them. The humans worked through the night. They worked through the next day. They worked without stopping, without complaining, without asking for anything in return. Krelveth watched them with growing confusion. Daniel Cruz spent most of his time in the engine room. Every few hours, he would come up to the bridge covered in grease and oil, grab a cup of coffee, and give the ambassador an update. The updates were always positive, always cheerful, always slightly terrifying. Good news, Daniel said on the first night. We can definitely fix your engines. But I have to be honest with you, Ambassador. These are really old models, like ancient. I think my grandmother had better engines in her first car. Krelveth did not know what a car was, but he understood the meaning. Our ship is outdated? A little bit, yeah. But here is the thing. Daniel leaned closer, his eyes bright with excitement. We have some spare parts on our shuttle. Better parts. Much better parts. What if we did not just fix your engines? What if we upgraded them? We cannot afford expensive upgrades, Krelveth said quickly. We only have enough credits for basic repairs. Daniel waved his hand like he was pushing the words away. No charge. Seriously. We have the parts just sitting around. My team loves this kind of work. It would make us happy to help. Krelveth did not understand. In the galaxy, nothing was free. Every species wanted something. Every favor came with a price, but the human just stood there smiling, waiting for permission to give away valuable technology for nothing. Why? Krelveth finally asked. Why would you do this? Daniel thought about the question for a moment, then he shrugged. Because you need help. Because we can help. Is there supposed to be another reason? The work continued. On the second day, Kate Simmons finally convinced Chief Engineer Yoleth to try the coffee. The Silurian engineer had been watching the humans drink the dark liquid with suspicion. They consumed incredible amounts of it. Every hour, someone would refill their cup. The smell of it had filled the entire ship. Just one sip, Kate said, holding out a cup. I promise, it will not hurt you. Yoleth took the cup carefully. She sniffed it. She examined the dark surface. Then, Slowly, she took a small sip. Her eyes went wide. All four of them. What is this? Yolith demanded. What chemical compound creates this effect? My mind feels clear, sharp, awake. This is some kind of stimulant drug, yes? Kate laughed. It is just coffee. We make it from roasted plant seeds and hot water. That is it. Impossible. Yolith took another sip. Then another. This cannot be natural. This is too powerful. Wait until you try it with sugar, Kate said with a grin. That is when it gets really good. By the end of the second day, half the Silurian crew had tried coffee. By the end of the third day, they were all addicted. Krelvith found crew members lined up at Kate's little table, waiting patiently for their cups to be filled. The humans thought this was hilarious. Happens every time, Daniel told the ambassador. Nobody can resist coffee. It is humanity's greatest weapon. Krelvith was not sure if Daniel was joking. The repairs continued to exceed all expectations. The humans did not just fix the broken engines. They replaced them entirely with newer, better models. They upgraded the shield generators. They installed improved sensor arrays. They rewired the entire navigation system. Your old system was using way too much power, explained a young human named Pete Mason. He was barely an adult by human standards, but he worked with the confidence of an expert. The new one is 3 times faster and uses half the energy. You will be able to travel much further without refueling. Krelvith watched the young human work and felt something strange. It took him a moment to realize what it was. He was impressed. Genuinely impressed. On the third night, Daniel emerged from the engineering section with a proud smile on his face. We are almost done, Ambassador. Just one more thing to install. What more could you possibly add? Krelvith asked. The ship already had better engines, better shields, and better sensors than most military vessels. Entertainment system, Daniel said seriously. You cannot travel through space without good music. Trust me on this. The humans spent the next 4 hours installing speakers throughout the ship. They connected everything to a small device that contained thousands of human songs. When they were finished, Daniel pressed a button, and music filled the bridge. It was strange music, fast rhythms and singing voices. The Silurian crew stopped what they were doing and listened with confusion. The sounds were unlike anything they had heard before. This is called rock and roll, Daniel explained. It will keep you awake during long trips. Much better than coffee. Well, almost as good as coffee. Krelvith stood in the center of his transformed ship. 3 days ago, the Ascending Grace had been a dying vessel, drifting through space. Now it was better than new, faster, stronger, and filled with strange human music. I do not understand you, Krelvith said to Daniel. I do not understand your species at all. Daniel just smiled. Most people say that. Do not worry about it. Just enjoy the upgrades. That night, Krelvith sat alone on the bridge, drinking coffee and listening to human music. The stars drifted past the windows. His crew was happy. His ship was saved. Everything should have felt perfect. But Krelvith could not stop thinking about the humans. They had come so quickly. They had given so much. They had asked for nothing in return. In his long career, he had learned one important truth about the galaxy. When something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. There was always a catch. Always a hidden cost. He wondered what the catch would be with the humans. He did not have to wonder for long. The next morning, everything changed. The morning started like any other. Kate Simmons made fresh coffee. The human repair crew finished the last small tasks on the ship. Daniel Cruz was explaining to Yolith how to maintain the new engine systems. Everything was calm and peaceful. Then Krelvith received the transmission. It came directly from Silurian High Command, marked with the highest priority code. Krelvith opened it in his private quarters and felt his blood turn to ice as he read the words. A Cathari war fleet had been detected entering the trade corridor. 12 destroyer-class warships, fully armed and moving fast. They were attacking merchant vessels without warning. They were capturing crews and stealing cargo, and they were heading directly toward the ascending Grace. Krelveth read the message 3 times, hoping he had misunderstood. He had not. The Kethari Dominion had finally made their move. For years, they had been expanding their territory, pushing against the borders of peaceful species. Everyone knew they were aggressive, everyone knew they were dangerous, but nobody had expected them to attack the trade routes so boldly. The ambassador's hands were shaking when he walked back to the bridge. The crew noticed immediately. They stopped what they were doing and stared at him with fear in their eyes. "Ambassador?" Yoleth asked. "What is wrong?" Krelveth took a deep breath. "A Kethari fleet is coming. 12 destroyers. They will be here in 6 hours, maybe 7. The bridge fell silent. Every Silurian knew what this meant. The Ascending Grace was a cargo ship. It had no weapons. Even with the human upgrades, it could not outrun military warships. When the Kethari arrived, they would capture the ship, they would enslave the crew, or they would simply destroy everything and leave no witnesses. Some crew members began to cry. Others prayed quietly to old gods. Yoleth just stood frozen, her cup of coffee forgotten in her hand. Daniel Cruz looked around at the terrified aliens. "Hey, what is going on? Why does everyone look so scared?" Krelveth explained the situation. He expected the humans to panic. He expected them to run to their shuttle and flee back to Earth as fast as possible. That is what any sensible species would do. Leave the doomed ship, save themselves, let the Silurians face their fate alone. Daniel did not panic. He did not run. Instead, he pulled a small device from his pocket and spoke into it calmly. "Hey, Amy?" "Yeah. We have got a situation out here. Kethari fleet incoming. 12 destroyers. Hostile approach toward our location." The voice of Amy Torres crackled through the device. "Copy that, Daniel. How long until arrival?" "About 6 hours. Understood. Sit tight. I will let Admiral Hayes know." Daniel put the device away and smiled at Krelveth. The ambassador stared at him in disbelief. "Sit tight," Krelveth repeated. "We must evacuate immediately. Your shuttle could escape before the fleet arrives. You do not have to die with us." "Krelveth, nobody is dying today," Daniel said firmly. "Just relax, Ambassador. Help is coming." "Help?" "Your planet has no military presence out here. By the time any rescue ships could arrive from Earth, the Kethari will have already destroyed us." Daniel's smile did not fade. If anything, it grew wider. "You might be surprised at what Earth has nearby." Krelveth did not understand. The humans were acting strangely calm. Too calm. Like they knew something he did not. Like they were keeping a secret. The next few hours were the longest of Krelveth's life. He tried to prepare his crew for the worst. He sent messages to loved ones back home. He organized the cargo bay in case they needed to use it for shelter during an attack. He did everything a good captain should do in their final hours. The humans kept working. They finished the last repairs. They cleaned up their tools. They drank coffee and played their music like nothing was wrong. Kate even made lunch for the whole crew, though most of the Silurians were too scared to eat. "How can you be so calm?" Krelveth finally demanded. "Do you not understand what is coming? The Kethari are the most brutal warriors in this sector. They show no mercy. They take no prisoners. We are all going to die." Daniel put down his coffee cup and looked at the ambassador with kind eyes. "I understand that you are scared. I understand that this looks bad. But I need you to trust me." "Krelveth, can you do that?" "Trust you? I barely know you. Your species barely knows how to travel between stars." "True," Daniel admitted. "We are pretty new to all this. But we learn fast. And we really do not like bullies." The sensors beeped. The navigation officer looked at her screen, and her face turned gray with fear. "They are here," she whispered. "The Kethari fleet. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 12 ships. They are arranging themselves in attack formation." Krelveth rushed to the window. In the distance, He could see the Kethari destroyers. They were ugly ships, covered in weapons and sharp angles. They looked exactly like what they were. Machines built for war and death. A voice came over the communication system. The Kethari commander, demanding immediate surrender, threatening death to anyone who resisted. Krelveth turned to Daniel, ready to beg for any solution, any hope. But Daniel was not looking at the Kethari fleet. He was looking at his scanner device with a small smile on his face. Right on time, Daniel said quietly. What? Krelveth asked. What is right on time? Then, the sensors started screaming. New signatures appeared on every screen. 1 ship. 5 ships. 20 ships. 30 ships. More and more. Dropping out of hyperspace, in perfect formation. Krelveth stared at the readings. His mind could not process what he was seeing. 37 warships. Human warships. They had appeared from nowhere, surrounding the ascending Grace like a protective wall, and they were very, very large. I told you, Daniel said, clapping the stunned ambassador on the shoulder. Help was coming. The human warships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They were painted in dark colors, blacks and grays that made them almost invisible against the emptiness of space. Their designs were sleek and smooth, like predators built for speed and violence. Each ship had a name written on its hull, names that the translator turned into words like Thunderstorm, Silent Hunter, and Iron Wolf. But the largest ship was the one in the center. It was massive, bigger than anything Krelveth had ever seen. Its hull was covered in weapons that glowed with barely contained energy. The name on its side read, Relentless. The Silurian crew stood frozen, staring at the screens in complete shock. The Kethari fleet, which had seemed so terrifying just moments ago, now looked small and weak compared to the human armada. This is Admiral Nathan Hayes of Earth's 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, a voice announced over all communication channels. It was a calm voice, confident and controlled. Kethari vessels, you are approaching a ship under our protection. Stand down immediately and leave this area, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war. Krelveth could not believe what he was hearing. The humans were threatening the Kethari, the most aggressive species in the sector. The empire that had been conquering worlds for generations. The Kethari commander responded with anger. You dare threaten us humans? You are insects. You are newcomers who know nothing of galactic power. We are the Kethari Dominion. We have destroyed entire civilizations. Turn around and go back to your pathetic little planet before we crush you like the bugs you are. There was a pause. Then Admiral Hayes spoke again. His voice was still calm, but there was something cold underneath it now. Something dangerous. I was hoping you would say that, the Admiral said. All ships, weapons free. What happened next took only 18 minutes, but Krelveth would remember every second of it for the rest of his life. The human ships moved as one, like a single creature with 37 bodies. They spread out across the battlefield in patterns that seemed impossible, covering every angle of attack at once. The Kethari tried to respond, tried to organize their own formation. But they were too slow, much too slow. The first human weapons fired. Krelveth had seen space battles before. He had watched recordings of military engagements between different species. He thought he understood what combat looked like in the void between stars. He was wrong. The human weapons cut through Kethari shields like they were made of nothing. Beams of brilliant blue light sliced through the darkness, hitting their targets with perfect accuracy. Missiles launched in swarms, each one finding its mark. Explosions bloomed across the Kethari fleet, one after another after another. The Kethari fired back, but their weapons seemed to bounce harmlessly off the human shields. Their missiles were shot down before they could reach their targets. Their destroyers, which had terrorized the trade routes for years, were being torn apart like paper. Shield status on the Relentless? Admiral Hayes asked calmly. 98%. Sir, someone responded. They are barely scratching us. Good. Focus fire on their flagship. Let us end this quickly. The Relentless turned its main weapons toward the largest Kethari ship. There was a moment of building energy. a glow that grew brighter and brighter. Then a single massive beam shot across space and hit the enemy flagship directly in its center. The Kethari ship broke in half. Just like that. One moment it was there. The next moment it was two pieces of burning wreckage drifting apart. Krelveth watched with his mouth hanging open. Yolith dropped her coffee cup, and it shattered on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. The battle, if it could even be called that, continued for a few more minutes. 3 more Kethari destroyers were destroyed completely. 6 others were disabled, their engines dead, and their weapons silent. The remaining 2 ships tried to run. One of them made it. The humans let it go. The other was not so lucky. It was caught by 2 human ships and disabled before it could enter hyperspace. Its crew would be captured and questioned. "Let the runner go," Admiral Hayes commanded. "Let them tell their empire what happens when they threaten our friends. Let them tell everyone." Then it was over. 18 minutes. That was all it took for the most feared military force in the sector to be completely destroyed by a species that had only discovered space travel a few decades ago. The bridge of the Ascending Grace was completely silent. The Silurian crew stared at their screens, at the burning remains of the Kethari fleet, at the human warships that now surrounded them like guardian angels. Daniel Cruz finished his coffee and put down his cup. "See? I told you everything would be fine." Krelveth turned to look at the human. His voice came out as a whisper. "How? How is this possible? You are supposed to be primitive, new, harmless." "Yeah, we get that a lot," Daniel said with a shrug. "People always underestimate Earth. I do not know why. We have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We are really, really good at it. When we finally got to space, we figured we should probably be ready in case we met anyone unfriendly. You were ready for this? For the Kethari? We were ready for anything." Daniel smiled. "We hoped we would never need these ships. We hoped space would be peaceful and everyone would be friends. But we learned a long time ago that hope is not a strategy. So we built the fleet. Just in case." A communication came through from the Relentless. Admiral Hayes appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen too many battles. "Ambassador Krelveth," the Admiral said, "I apologize for any distress this situation caused you and your crew. The Kethari will not trouble you again. My ships will escort you to safety." Krelveth did not know what to say. His language had no words for what he was feeling. Gratitude. Awe. Fear. Relief. Everything at once. "Thank you," he managed finally. "Thank you, Admiral." Admiral Hayes nodded. "You are welcome. Any friend of Earth is under our protection. Remember that." The human fleet began to move, forming a protective circle around the Ascending Grace. Somewhere in the distance, cleanup crews were already approaching the disabled Kethari ships to offer medical assistance to survivors. The humans were helping their enemies. Even after everything, they were helping them. Krelveth sat down heavily in his command chair. His legs would not support him anymore. Everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had just changed forever. The journey home took 3 days with the human fleet as escort. 3 days of thinking, 3 days of trying to understand what Krelveth had witnessed. The Ascending Grace moved smoothly through space with its new engines. The shields hummed with power they had never had before. Human music played softly on the bridge, something calm and peaceful that Kate had selected specially for the occasion. The Silurian crew had changed. They walked differently now. They spoke differently. They had watched the most dangerous species in their sector get destroyed in less than 20 minutes by a fleet of humans. They had seen the impossible happen right before their eyes. On the second day of the journey, Krelveth invited Daniel Cruz to share a meal with him in the ambassador's private quarters. The human arrived with 2 cups of coffee and that same friendly smile he always wore. "You wanted to talk?" Daniel asked, sitting down across from Krelveth. "I wanted to understand," Krelveth said. "I have been thinking for 2 days, and I still do not understand your species. What is confusing you?" Krelveth struggled to find the right words. "You came to help us. Strangers. You gave us technology. You upgraded our ship. You asked for nothing in return. And then, when danger came, you brought a war fleet to protect us. Why? What do you gain from any of this? Daniel was quiet for a moment. He stared into his coffee cup like he was looking for answers there. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than usual. Back on Earth, we have this idea. It is not a law or a rule. It is just something we believe. We believe that if you can help someone, you should. Simple as that. We have a saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. But the cost, Krelvith pressed. Those upgrades to our ship were valuable. The fuel to bring your fleet here must have been enormous. The risk to your soldiers, how can you justify all of that for strangers? Daniel smiled. You shared coffee with us. That makes you family. Krelvith blinked all four of his eyes. What? I am being a little silly, Daniel admitted. But also serious. We believe in building connections. Making friends. We think the galaxy is better when people help each other. So that is what we do. We help, and when our friends are in danger, we protect them. That is just who we are. But you destroyed the Kethari fleet. You killed hundreds of their warriors. Does that not bother you? Daniel's smile faded slightly. Yes. It does. We do not enjoy violence. We really do not. Every human on those ships wishes the Kethari had just surrendered peacefully. We gave them a chance. We always give them a chance. But when they chose to fight, when they threatened innocent people, he paused. Then we do what we have to do. We are protectors, Ambassador, and sometimes protection means being very, very dangerous. Krelvith thought about this for a long time. The humans were a contradiction. They were kind and generous. They made friends easily. They shared food and drinks and music with strangers, but underneath that kindness was something else, something hard and sharp and terrifying. They were like a blade hidden in a silk cloth, soft and gentle until you needed them to be otherwise. On the morning of the third day, the ascending Grace reached the border of Silurian space. The human fleet stopped there, unable to enter foreign territory without permission. Admiral Hayes contacted the ship one last time. This is where we leave you, Ambassador. You should be safe from here. The Kethari will not bother you again. Not for a long time. Admiral, Krelvith said, I do not know how to thank you properly. My language does not have words big enough. The old human smiled warmly. Just remember us kindly. Tell your people about Earth. Tell them we are always ready to help friends in need. That is all we ask. I will tell them more than that, Krelvith promised. I will tell them everything. Daniel Cruz was the last human to leave the ship. He stood at the airlock with his repair crew, ready to return to their shuttle. Kate was there too, with a large box in her arms. Almost forgot, she said, handing the box to Krelvith. Coffee beans. Enough to last you a few months. There are instructions inside on how to prepare them. Trust me, you do not want to run out. Krelvith accepted the gift with trembling hands. Such a small thing, roasted plant seeds, but it meant more to him than any treasure. Thank you, he said. For everything. For the repairs. For the coffee. For saving our lives. Daniel shook Krelvith's hand one final time. Anytime, Ambassador. And I mean that. If you ever need help again, just call. Earth will answer. The humans boarded their shuttle and departed. The fleet turned slowly and disappeared into the void, jumping to hyperspace and returning home. Krelvith stood alone on the bridge of his transformed ship. His crew worked quietly around him, preparing for the final approach to the home world. Human music played softly in the background. He pulled out his personal communication device and began writing a message to Silurian High Command. It was the most important message he would ever write. He spent hours on it, choosing each word carefully. When he was finished, the message contained 3 main points. First, Earth was not primitive. Earth was not harmless. Earth was perhaps the most advanced military power the galaxy had ever seen, and they had been hiding it behind smiles and friendly handshakes. Second, despite their terrifying power, the humans were genuinely kind. They helped strangers without expecting payment. They protected the weak without asking for glory. They were exactly what they appeared to be: good people with very big guns. Third, and most importantly, the Silurian Trade Federation needed to become friends with Earth immediately. Not allies, not trade partners, friends, real friends. The kind of friends who share meals together. The kind of friends who bring coffee to your ship when you break down in the middle of nowhere, because Earth protected its friends. And in a galaxy full of danger and violence and species like the Cathari, everyone needed a friend like Earth. Krelveth sent the message and sat back in his chair. Outside the window, the stars drifted past. Somewhere out there, the humans were already back to their normal lives, probably helping some other stranger in need. He lifted his cup of coffee and took a long sip. It was still the strangest thing he had ever tasted. Bitter and warm and somehow comforting. The humans were strange too, terrifying and kind, dangerous and generous, impossible and real, but Krelveth understood them now. At least, he understood them a little, and he knew one thing for certain. He was very, very glad they were friends.